لا يزال الخير حيا لا يزال إن في الدنيا سلاما وظلال.
For the gay Nigerian piece, yeah?
Yeah, and then we'll get into my frustration, essentially the conversation we had earlier.
Sure.
In terms of, oh, you're a Christian and you shouldn't say that, and Jesus is the Son of God, and blah, blah, blah. So we'll get into...
So you want to start with that and clarify that first?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, then we'll go into the side issue.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to start? Or?
Yeah, go for it, start.
Okay, tell me, are you guys ready, yeah? Good? You is everything ready?
Yeah, no, wait, is it good?
Who you are, what's your channel name and so on?
Oh, no, is it recording? Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Hi guys, I'm Dave from Crossing Rubicon. We're here at Speaker's Corner. Thank you for taking part. We're just going to be speaking across different ideas on religion and sexuality. As I'm going to be mentioning, I know a gay Nigerian priest, and some people might be outraged by that. And I want to just get the juxtaposition between Christianity and how it's allowed in Christianity, but in Islam, it's hit a brick wall. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, we could.
But we can speak about
yeah,
that.
we can speak about that.
What we talked about earlier, because I was talking to Muhammad earlier about Christianity, the son of Jesus being the Son of God, and some people afterwards had a problem. Now, for me, I was more than happy to be honest on camera and say that, listen, I believe Jesus is the Son of God. That's my faith. I have the right to believe that. I believe that God came down in Christ through Mary, whether people like it or not. Do I necessarily unequivocally say that Jesus is God? Well, for me, automatically from that, you would say, well, yes. But at the same time, for me, it's a bit of an uneasy subject area. But that's my particular faith, and that's going to be my journey in my religion. Can you answer to some of the Christians that are angry that I answered the question with so much honesty, say, well, yeah, do you know what? Some Christians, we're not unified, and we don't have a one unequivocal doctrine about every single part of the Bible. So what would you say to Christians that are angry that a Christian has come out and spoken to Muslims and said how he particularly feels and how he perceives the world?
But before I answer that, I would have to, because I don't want to assume anything about you. I've just met you, I've seen you around a few times, and you seem like a sincere person, so I wanted to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
See, as a convert to Islam myself, so I think that a person has to be sincere with themselves, you know, and what they believe about God.
Yeah.
Because if there is a God that created us, or force or power, whatever you want to call it, and there is a day of judgment as we believe as Muslims, and a paradise and a hellfire, then he has to be just with us, because if he created us, there's a paradise, there's a hellfire, but it's ambiguous what he is, what you have to do to get there, what you have to do to avoid it. It's unjust of him. So the whole thing is that since I don't know what type of Christian you are, do you actually believe in a paradise and a hellfire?
Yes, I do.
Okay. As a Muslim, we believe that you can only get entry to paradise if you worship God alone.
Yeah.
Do you believe this as a Christian?
Yep, well, for me, I believe that worship of God is essential.
Yeah.
I believe that the only way, to an extent, and this is another perfect area for Muslims, because Speaker's Corner, a lot of Muslims here, we believe that the only way to the Father is through the Son. Now, whilst Muslims do believe in Jesus Christ, they do not take him as the Son of God, nor do they take him as the king, as a king. And for me, that doesn't sit well with me, because I've got a lot of Muslim friends, and I don't particularly think that they won't reach heaven because they are Muslim. I've got friends that are Hindus. I don't believe that they're not going to reach heaven simply because they were born into a religion. They have every chance to convert throughout their life, but if they've been told that is right and everything else is not true, there is a high likelihood that they will continue along that path. Now, for me, as I was trying to mention in the previous video with Muhammad, I was trying to refer that it's my actions. You can have a Muslim that will do dishonorable things, but because he believes in Islam, he might say, well, I'm going to go to heaven and hellfire. For me, I'm more about actions. I'm not saying you can worship the wind and...
But this is a problem, because if do you, for example, do you believe that an atheist can enter into paradise?
I would say, okay.
Don't worry about who's watching.
No, it's not about who's watching. I'm thinking because an atheist may do wonderful things, but he was raised as an atheist, or maybe he became an atheist. Maybe he saw something horrific in his life, and he could not explain.
Are we walking out of the way of the camera? Have we moved?
No.
Have we moved? I think we were over there. Have we moved out of the? Yeah. Okay, so let's stay still.
Okay.
All right, you can edit that bit, cut that part out, because I thought, wait, we're moving backwards. Okay.
So for me on that, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, he may have seen something, or he or she may have seen something horrific in their life, or experienced some tragedy, and they stopped believing in God. But they were a wonderful person, and they were doing great things. For me, I cannot try to extrapolate what may happen to them and try and think like God. I can't do that.
See, in Islam, sorry.
But what I will say is this: God is understanding, and God knows that we are weak, and God knows that that person may be hurting so much, and He may pardon that lack of faith, possibly. I can't listen. I'm not God, but what I'm will saying is that God is understanding and God is all-knowing. And whilst God will be saying, "But listen, you haven't worshipped me for 20, 30 years. How can I let you into my kingdom? You don't believe in me." I do think that God is compassionate. So it just depends on how strict you are to a particular text, to a particular belief. And some people have different answers, and respectfully, that's your answer.
See, in Islam, it says that people that are born in remote places or born in between the prophets who haven't heard their message, they're not held accountable for their belief, and they're given a test on Day of Judgment because they never heard the message. But I'm saying that, I'm sure that your book says that if you don't worship God or you worship other than God, that you won't be able to enter to paradise. So the whole thing is you have to decide now whether you accept this. You see what I'm saying? So two things. One thing is that I don't think the book actually says that if you're a disbeliever or non-believer, that you can enter paradise. So what you would have to decide within yourself is that, do I really believe in this book?
No, okay. So you've gone from a particular aspect to a book, which I think, I can't say that's deductively fallacious in the sense that you've gone from one thing and gone to something. Well, it isn't. What I will say is this: Christianity sometimes doesn't sit well with me because there are certain things, and as I said earlier, I'm going to reiterate. I don't believe, brother, that you will not go to heaven because you don't take Jesus as your king. I don't believe that. If you are a wonderful person, you've done the right thing, and you're trying to do good things in your life, me personally, my personal belief, I am not saying I can change Christianity. That is my personal belief.
Okay, so
before the trolls and people go crazy and saying he's changing Christianity, he doesn't know Christianity. No, that's my personal belief.
Okay.
And I think that I can not agree with that and still accept it as my book because of my faith and because of the things that I've seen and because of the things that God has done for me. I believe because of my faith, not because of that interpretation, which may not sit well with you, and that's fine, but it's my faith, and that's what I genuinely believe.
Okay, so now it's a different discussion now, because if I was talking to a Christian that goes according to a book, I could reference points of the Bible because I would have a reference points of what you believe. Yeah. So now you have basically your own. I'm not mocking you. I'm not mocking you. I'm saying you have your own religion kind of, or philosophy.
Not religion.
Okay, what?
I'd say an interpretation.
Okay, but the thing is that Bible, for example, there's the Bible, yeah?
Yeah.
For example, it says, in the Bible it says, the first of the 10 commandments is, thou shalt have only one God, yes? And the second one is that thou shalt have no graven images. So for example, now if I have idols, what's wrong?
I see where this is going. No, I see it.
Yeah, so the Old Testament says, thou shalt only have one God. Yeah. And it says, thou shalt have no graven images. Yeah. So the kind of thing is if I believe in either more than one God, and I'm not going into the Trinity at the moment, yes? Yeah. But if I believe in more than one God, or I have graven images, I have images of God up in my house, I'm going against the Bible. That's the clear reading of the Bible, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole thing is now, the question I'm asking you is that you're saying that, according to you, that if you're atheist, you can still get into paradise, yeah? If you have good works.
No, possibly. And whilst I was trying to reiterate and to emphasize that I cannot extrapolate what God may be thinking, I'm saying if God is compassionate, there may be a chance. I'm not saying that is the concrete.
So let him speak.
No. I know that's an interpretation.
Let him speak.
I'm not disagreeing that that's my interpretation. What I'm saying is there may be a possibility, because I don't know God. None of us here do. So whilst we can say we know the book and we know this and other, we do not know God like to that extent.
But you know what? There's a problem then.
Okay.
Because if I want to be a good person and I want to be a sincere person, yeah? Because there's two things. There's being good and kind to the creation and being good and kind to God. So for example, more? Okay. See, there's two things. There's being good to the creation and there's being good to the creator. So therefore, and if it's not clear, it means God is unjust. Because if God hasn't made it clear that I have to believe in him, yes, and be grateful to him to go into paradise, yeah, it's ambiguous. It means that, and hell you believe is for eternity, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so if God ain't made it clear whether atheists and non-believers, yes, go to hellfire, he hasn't been clear about the purpose of life.
No, okay.
And that would be unjust, because if he's made it grey, and it's like, okay, if you worship God, you go to paradise. If you don't worship God, I don't know, maybe I'll let you in, maybe I'll let you out.
Okay,
it's not fair.
No. I completely take that point.
And can I just say, say, no, it's okay, it's cool, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You speak, I speak. We're having a nice conversation here. So the thing is that it has to be clear, because I don't want to live my life. It's not fair that people live their life thinking they're a good person, according to themselves, and then on the day of judgment, they find out they was a bad person. For example, as Muslims, when we pray to God, we don't just ask him for things. We don't just say, oh Allah, I want this job, oh Allah, I want this to happen in my life. We also praise him, meaning thank you for the oxygen you gave us today, thank you for the sight you've given us, thank you for the trees that replenish the oxygen that you've given us. For example, if God wanted to, he could have made food, one type of food and one type of drink. Potatoes or something and water. That's it. All one colour, no taste. And we will still have to praise him and thank him because it sustains us. But he gave us many different fruits with many different colours, many different vegetables, many different tastes. But he could have made everything grey and tasteless. And we will still have to thank him. So what I'm just saying, you may have atheists that give to charities, help the homeless, help the elderly and this, that and the other and so forth. But when it comes to the creator, they say, oh, this tree that's here, that gives us oxygen, oh, that's not just a coincidence. You know, these trees that take the oxygen once it's used and make it into fresh, oh that's a coincidence. We need sun and heat, yeah? And there's a sun there, oh, that's a coincidence. And so forth. So I'm going to wrap up. If it was too far away, we would freeze. If it was too close, we would burn. So what I'm trying to say is that most human beings like you, I'm sure, if someone holds the door open for you, you say thank you. If someone gives you a drink, for example, I could go around to my mum's house. I could go around there, she could cook me a meal, I could just walk in the house, not say hello, eat the meal, drink the juice, yeah, walk out and slam the door. My mum doesn't need to be thanked, she deserves to. So God doesn't deserve to be worshipped, yeah? He doesn't need to be worshipped, he deserves to be. So what I'm trying to say to you, we believe the worst sin in Islam is someone, yes, who is, they may be good or bad to the Christian. They could be a robber, hurt people, or they could be a nice person, give charity, this, that and the other. But they don't show thanks to the Creator. Yes? So what I'd say is that
I agree with that.
the reason why this is the worst sin, the reason why this is the worst sin is because of this. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. I did not create mankind and jinn except to worship me. So we believe working is a part of life. Having relationships is a part of life. Socializing, these are all parts of life. But the main thing is that you recognize God, and it doesn't mean just going to pray all day and this, that and the other, but the main part of life is to recognize the Creator and worship him alone. If we as a Muslim worship Muhammad, This is the worst sin, we believe, because Muhammad didn't create the universe. Yeah? If someone worships Jesus or Buddha or whatever, this is the worst sin, even if you have good actions. Because the point is, in ending, is that you were nice to the creation, but you were rude to the one that created all of the creation, and he chooses whether you go to paradise or you're not.
Brother, I completely agree with that point. Sorry, with aspects of that point, majority of it in fact, because I do believe that, yes, God deserves to be worshipped. But unfortunately, the situation we're in life, and I think it would be fair to say, is that it's not as straightforward, as clear cut as that. In the sense that some people, they don't worship God because of things that have happened to them. And whilst, yes, God, listen, I get on my knees and I pray to God every day. All the things that are going on in this world. God, the fact that we're still breathing, the fact that a Muslim and a Christian are coexisting and having peaceful conversation, I will go home and thank God. There's no what, it's not what I've seen in certain videos of people getting at between Muslims and Christians. Some of the brothers coming in saying, no, Islam is not. I thank God that it's not that. And God deserves a lot of praise. Unfortunately, there are some people that aren't in that mind frame, that aren't in that mindset. And they have had things that have happened to them in their lives which have put them in that mindset. And for me personally, it just doesn't sit well that that person will unequivocally go to hellfire because of certain wrong decisions that have turned them into a complete left, or not even left, a complete U-turn. They may have been Christian, they may have been Muslim.
I understand what you're saying.
And this is what I'm saying about what I was trying to get at in the previous video I made, is that sometimes it's a bit ambiguous. Whilst in Islam, the Muslims will say, well, no, it's not ambiguous.
No,
but in Christianity, sometimes...
But our Prophet talks about this. No. For example, I mentioned to you the person that's remote, lives in a remote time, and was...
No. Yes, you covered that.
If he doesn't hear the message, he's not responsible, yeah? And I said the people born in between the prophets, they're not responsible. But there's another hadith saying of the Prophet. He said that there's three that the pen is lifted for, meaning they're not held accountable. A person who dies before the age of understanding. Yeah. A person who's mentally challenged, yeah? And there's a third one. Who's the third one?
The one who lost conscious.
Huh?
The unconscious.
The person who was unconscious, so maybe he went into a coma or something, yeah? Have we moved out? Should we move back a little bit? Excuse me.
We're just gonna stay here.
Yeah? Okay. Are we in it? Are
we still in the frame?
Okay. No, I just want to make sure because we don't want to film the whole thing. So the whole thing is, Islam deals with it. If someone, there's a hadith, a saying of the Prophet, that three people are not held accountable. The one who is dies before the age of understanding. They look like under the age of puberty or reason, so forth. Yeah. The one that is crazy, they're not functionally there, and the one that is in a coma or something, yeah? So the point I'm trying to say to you, Islam deals with this. So the whole thing is, say a person was raised in a Muslim family, yes? Or a fierce family, and they were child abused, yeah? Or they were violently abused physically, yeah? Because of, just because their father or their mother was really brutal. Obviously that person may have a mental hatred and associate that with their parents, associate that with the religion. So God's going to judge them. But there's always exceptions, but I'm saying the general rule, if someone who has a sane mind, who works, who goes to college, who studies, who has relationships and that, in his life he's going to have problems and so forth. For example, you'll find a lot of people that are handicapped or have limbs missing, but they still believe in God. And some people that have been through war and they've got their amputated and this, that, and whatever, but they still believe in God. So what I'm trying to say to you is that as long as the person is sane, they're going to be held accountable.
But people react differently, brother. And I'm not, like, people will still praise God, and thankfully they still do praise God. There are people back on the continent where we come from. In Africa, what country from?
Yeah, I was born here, but my mum's from Jamaica, my dad's from Haiti.
Okay, so okay, maybe back in the Caribbean. And they're struggling. But not everyone struggles and continues to believe in
But
God.
this is called free will. This is called free will.
And this is okay, do you know, let me ask you a question. Do you think I will go to hell?
See, I don't know what you believe, but the thing is this, yeah? I have never met you before, have I?
Yeah, no.
See, but I can ask you certain questions and I know how you answer, not because I'm psychic, because we believe as Muslims that God has given everyone something within themselves to know about God, basic things about God. So for example, I've never met you before, but if I ask you if God sees everything, you're going to say yes, yes. If I ask you if God's going to hear everything, you're going to say yes. If I ask you if God is all-knowing, you're going to say yes. Yes? Because you have this thing, we call it fitra in Islam. That's why when you go to the natural world, whether it's the Amazon, the desert, or anywhere in the natural world, away from the city and so forth, there are no atheists. Wherever you go in the natural world, whatever tribe you go to, whatever, none of them are atheists. They all believe in something greater, a greater force, because belief in God is natural. So what I'm trying to say to you is that God has given you this inbuilt blueprint or GPS to know what He is. Now, what our claim is, this is our claim about Islam. See, there are many different religions: Sikhs, Hindus, Buddhists, and they all say they're the truth. And this is my claim. It's going to answer your question. They all say the truth, and if you look into them, they do all say like Islam, help the poor, help the homeless, help the charity. My claim is, sorry.
No, sorry, no.
Excuse me. It's cold out here. So yeah, no, and you got a warm jacket on. Yeah. So the whole thing is that good old London. So the point is that yeah. So the point is that all religions do turn to good. Our claim as Muslims, and me as a convert to Islam, is that when you take that time out to analyse all the religions apart from Islam, they do tell you to do all these charitable acts. But when you take the time out to look at and see what they're worshipping other gods in this way. Either they say God is a man, or they say God is a woman. I'm wrapping up.
Yeah.
Either they will say God is a man, or God is a woman, or God is an animal, God is an idol, or they will give God human attributes, yes? For example, getting hungry, resting, getting thirsty. For example, and I say this honestly, you seem like a sincere human being to me, yeah? And I'm not saying this to mock you, yeah? And when I was told about Islam, I had to make the choice of whether I wanted to be a Christian, be a spiritual person, which just meant enjoying myself, and then when someone in my family gets cancer or something, I pray to God and promise I'll fix up my life if you take this punishment away, but then just going back to my normal lifestyle, or becoming a Muslim. There's certain things in the Bible, and like I said to you, you have this GPS within yourself.
Yeah.
What you have to decide as an adult, whether you accept or not. And I'm not saying this to mock you, I'm truly saying to you, and I truly approach you because you seem like a sincere individual to me. Yes, just from seeing you around our park and so forth, and your mannerisms. For example, the verse in the Bible, and I'm not saying to mock it, but I had to make these decisions as well when someone confronted with me and I was told about Islam. I'm sure you know the verse, like we said, God is all knowing, God is all seeing, God is all hearing, and I'm sure you believe that God is all powerful, yeah? For example, the verse in the Bible with, is it Jacob or Abraham, when he wrestled with God? Jacob. It says that Jacob was wrestling with God, yes? And that Jacob overpowered God. And Jacob said to God that he will not let him go until God blesses him. And God said to him, I will name you Israel because you've wrestled with man on one and you've wrestled with God on one. And so forth. And there's other things like God created the world in 6 days and then resting. Now, as a human being, and I'm wrapping up, I don't believe that within your heart, you believe that God rests. Or you believe that God wrestled with a man, deep down in your heart.
Okay, listen, let me get into that.
Yeah.
And this is why the Christians were slating and attacking me after. Don't say that in front of them. The Muslims are going to use it as propaganda. Muhammad, you don't know that Muhammad. He's going to use it. He's going to make a fool of you. If we're being honest, Christians... Sorry?
Let's speak.
Sorry?
The brother Hussain, name is Hussain.
I'm not talking
No.
Previous video. Okay.
So start again.
No, yeah. So as some of the Christians were angry, saying, "Oh, don't speak to the Muslims. They're going to use you as a propaganda tool. They're going to abuse your words. They're going to make you look like a fool." But yeah, I've seen what Muhammad does. You can't trust that Muhammad. To answer the question directly, there are certain verses, and I'm going to say this to you and to the camera so the people can understand this. There are certain verses in the Bible that do not sit well with me, and I am not the only one. If a lot of Christians are honest, it doesn't sit well with them either. Period.
Yeah.
Now for Muslims, they might say, well, sorry, for the Christians that were saying don't speak to Muslims, that's what they want to hear. But I'm going to be honest, I'm sincere. It is my faith that drives me. So many things have happened to me in my life, and when I have said to myself, I do not give in to fear, I give in to God, a lot of my problems went. The amount of times I've prayed to Christ, please, Christ, deliver me from this. And I've been delivered. Whether it's instant or in time, that is my faith. And my faith overrides some of the passages in the Bible that I do not necessarily feel are congruent with my particular reality. And now, to answer what you said earlier, saying is that your own philosophy, is that your own religion? For me personally, no, because I still do adhere to a lot of things in the Bible. So long as the fact that I have not struck you, I have not insulted you, I have not insulted your family, I wish you peace, I wish you prosperity, that is enough. Even if you may think, David, or believe that God came down in the flesh as a man, that's blasphemy. We can agree to disagree, so long as we can act as brothers, or if it's a woman, brothers and sisters, for me that is good enough. It is my faith and our conduct towards each other. Now you might be saying, David, okay, that's a good threshold to start, but Islam takes you to that threshold. That's your opinion, and that's fine, my brother. Now whether 6 days, listen, I went to a Catholic school. And my mum was always introducing me to the Bible as when I was younger. When they said these kind of things, and I'll be honest with you, there are certain things in the Bible I think, is really, but it's faith. And no one will ever be able to take that away from me. And that's my complete, honest answer, brother. 6 days, whether you believe it or not, even for me, I can say on camera, 6 days, it does seem a bit, you know what I mean? But that's my personal faith, that's my personal belief.
So I would consider you someone who's, you believe in a creator,
100%.
but you grew up in a Christian family.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you take from the Bible, but there's some things that that your heart doesn't sit well with.
In that boat.
Yeah, but this is what I'm going to say to you. See, the whole thing is that there's a difference between. I believe that with a person who's an atheist, an idol worshipper, or none of them. Like my mum is a Christian. Mm-hmm. She believes Jesus is God. Yeah? I meet many atheists at work and so forth. I believe regardless what a person's belief is, you still have to treat them with civilized, yeah? And you have to be kind to them as a human being, yeah? That's one thing I believe that. I'm talking about, basically, if there's a paradise, there's a day of judgment, and there's a hellfire, then God can't be ambiguous with us on how to get there. Because where we're going to after is forever. You get what I'm saying? So for example, I don't believe, yes? I believe Moses, Adam, Moses, Jesus and so forth, they all came with one religion. Yes? This is what I believe. I don't believe they came with different religions, yeah? And if you just look at the prophet, the Muslim, if you look at the prophets of old, their belief, Hear, O Israel, your Lord God is one. Thou shalt have no graven images, yes? This fits exactly like what the Quran says. The Quran says, I'll give you God's description in the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It's very short, don't worry. Kul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad, wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Say God is one, the absolute, the eternal. He doesn't give birth and he wasn't born, and there's nothing comparable to him. Say God is one, the absolute, the eternal.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
He doesn't give birth and he wasn't born, and there's nothing comparable. This fits like a jigsaw puzzle into your heart. It fits perfectly into your heart. Now, what I'm just saying, if you look at the Old Testament and you look at the Quran, one God, no graven images. You go to the mosque today, no pictures of Muhammad, no pictures of saints, no idols, just a plain mosque, plain walls, no pictures of Muhammad. Yes, for two reasons. One, if you have a picture of Muhammad, what tends to happen, people start worshipping that picture or start idolizing that person. Two, whatever race Muhammad is, if you have pictures of him, yes, up, that race is going to feel superior. Why? Because, well, God's messenger, even though we know there was prophets all over the world, and Muhammad was just the last prophet. For example, Moses and so forth, and like, so we know there was Arab prophets, black prophets, this, that and the other, but the point is that Muhammad was the last prophet. If you have a picture of him up in your mosque, that people are going to start start concentrating less on the Creator and more on Him, you know? And then you might have a Jamaican Muhammad and an African Muhammad and a European Muhammad and so forth. Yeah. That's not what we're there for. When we go to worship, we go to worship God. So in a mosque, no pictures, like the old of Ten Commandments. Hear, O Israel, your Lord God is one. Thou shalt have no graven images. Like I said, saw a class what I just recited to you. God's description, one God, eternal, doesn't give birth, wasn't born. Okay, if you look at the way they worship, yes, the prophets, Abraham fell down on his face and prayed, Moses fell down on his face, Adam, Moses, they all fell down on their face and prayed. The Muslim men, the prophets, they grew their beard, they wore modest clothing like the phobes the Muslim wear, the modest loose robes. Mary, if you see Mary, she used to dress like a Muslim woman. Now, and this is not a hit at Christianity, but I'm saying if you look at Christianity today, when you go to the churches, idol of Jesus, even though the first of the 10 Commandments, you're not supposed to have graven images or idolatry. They have pictures of Jesus up in the church, crosses, saints. If you go Roman Catholic, you'll see Saint Paul and so forth. I'm going to wrap up. Don't worry, don't worry.
Yes, you go. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not doing it to mock. When it goes to worship, there's a lot of dancing and, you know what I'm saying, and singing, tambourines, like.
I don't think that's.
No, but what I'm saying is that when it comes to worshiping, Jesus, if you look for reference for Jesus and the disciples, when they worship, they will humbly go and pray. They would go and wash and this, that, and the other, and they would pray. You wouldn't find them dancing and getting jiggy with it. And also, I would just say, no, let me finish it, and you can disagree. We're not always going to agree.
And that's life.
But we're having a nice conversation. And also, I'm just talking about when you go to church, the guys, you know what I'm saying, it's all flashing, looking smart, and a bit puff daddy-ish. And the girls, no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about church in general. I'm talking about churches. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the Christians in general today. I'm not talking. I wasn't saying you go to church and your church has, but the vast majority of church, they have idols of Jesus up, they have gold, you know what I'm saying, they, like when it's time to worship, it's like saxophone and this, that and the other, and dancing and this, and I'm saying the way the women go to church, and cleavage and mini skirts and stuff, and I'm saying, what I'm just trying to say, if you look at the prophets of old, and you look at the Muslims today, yes, we've got bad Muslims, just go Edgware Road, you'll see it, but the Muslims that are trying to practice, in their mosques, no pictures of Allah, no pictures of Muhammad, not a white Muhammad, a black Muhammad, no pictures of the companions of the Muhammad, you know, fall down on their face and pray like Moses did, Jesus did, Noah did, wear modest clothing, simple clothing, robes, so you can't tell who's rich, who's poor. They grow their beard, Mary, you know what I'm saying, she dresses like a Muslim woman. Go Edgware Road, go anywhere, you know what I'm saying, in West London or whatever and so forth, you know what I'm saying, you'll see Muslim women just exactly like how Mary does, even in this time now. So what I'm trying to say is that the ones that are trying, like I said to you, I don't believe that the prophets came with all different religions. They all came with one, worship God alone, and they all came with prayer, fasting, marriage, like circumcision, give charity. So I'm saying Moses, Jesus, Adam, as I wrap up, were Muslims. Muslim means someone that submits to God's will, and Islam is the system. And what I would say to you, and I'll be honest with you, I don't